Does anyone still buy DVDs? I mean, other than me. Like, other than me. Do people... Is that a thing we do? I think it should be. But that's subject for another video. Today we're going to sew some cool stuff. Welcome back to my nightmare. Today we're going to talk about my Etsy store some more. So back in the early to mid 2000s, I had an Etsy store called Mad Rabbit Society. Well, actually it was called a lot of things. It was Cirque du Froc, then it was Mad Rabbit Couture, now it's Mad Rabbit Society because let's face it, nothing that I make is actually couture. I started to have some really big feelings about it. So Mad Rabbit Society was a blog and an Etsy store that I had, and I would sell upcycled clothing. Now, to me, I don't mind when other people upcycle clothing, but I did start to feel like by creating new pieces that I was then selling, that I was contributing to the capitalist consumption problem that we have with our climate crisis. So for me, morally, it just started to feel wrong to have that kind of business where I was actually putting out a product. And one of the things I also did is I did do digital tutorials. This is one of my favorite tutorials I ever made. I love it so much. I'm going to teach you how to make the flying trapeze dress. Cirque du Froc had these tutorials and they were all circus themed. So you've already got the sideshow dress. There was the calliope tunic. This was the flying trapeze. The flying trapeze, I will say, was one of my favorite things I've ever made. Sorry. While I talk, I just want to see if these look good. I got these appliques at Scrap More in Baltimore, and I still have not found like the perfect thing to like put them on. And I'm wondering if there's like a way I should like, maybe I could put, ooh, I like this idea. We might do a little embellishing in this video. So yeah, oh, that's cute. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so yeah, so I had this company where I sold the clothing, but then I also wanted to educate people on how to make the clothing. That was super important to me. I just thought, since I'm doing YouTube now, I would go through and show you guys how to make some of these things. So the flying trapeze dress, the idea is, unlike the sideshow dress, which is a baby doll dress, this is more of a trapeze A-line style. It's very beginner friendly. There are a lot of steps, but I promise you, it's a really good way of making a shirt that doesn't fit you in the middle, fit you a little bit better. So this works under the assumption that you have a shirt that fits you on the top. Now, I will use some gendered clothing lines here, and forgive me, but I'm just telling you where to look in the store, essentially. What you want for this, and you can use a knit top, you can use like a t-shirt. So if you want something stretchy, this totally works with t-shirts. I made a ton of these with t-shirts. But if you're looking for a button-up style, I have a women's button-up from Target that I think they made very poorly. This is one of my favorite styles of shirt. However, they made the armhole so small I can't even button them up on a 2X. And that was the biggest size that Who What Wear goes up to. And that's if you can even find one in the store. And then the gaps between the buttons are so big that I literally safety pinned this shut. So this is a good shirt for this. It fits, but it could just use a little shaping, to quote TikTok. When you're looking in the thrift store, say you want to do this with a t-shirt, the sides aren't going to have a seam. You're going to create that by just cutting straight up. If you decide you want to use a button-up shirt in the men's section, they usually have a different type of seam. So this works best if you're going to use a woven shirt with a women's type crappy seam, because we're going to split this up. We're going to take this almost all the way out. I don't know that I'm using this term right, but I believe when men's dress shirts, they typically have like a flat felled seam. So it might be better for you to just cut instead of trying to unpick it the way that we're going to do with this. It's easy to do with this though. If you have a seam on a shirt that looks like this, so much easier. So now that we've got our embellishments placed and I've told you the really boring story of how I came up with this, I'm going to start teaching you how to make it. Again, like the other shirts that I've showed you, like the fairy shirt, I don't know if I've posted that yet. Like the other shirts I'm going to show you, I don't iron for crap, okay? Like, these are meant to be kind of homemade. I was very into like Login Look and Mori Girl styles, which was kind of the predecessor to cottagecore. So whatever you like, I like that kind of cottagey looking kind of style. Very Victorian. That's kind of always been a thing that I enjoy. I like a very kind of homemade look, I guess. I don't iron. And these are supposed to be looser garments, or they're making something bigger. So you can iron. I'm just not going to, like, because of who I am as a person. What you want to determine is, do you want this to be a shirt length or a dress length? Could be either. I prefer a dress length or a tunic length. And then put like a cute little like pair of bloomers or something under it. But determine your length. I'm going to try and keep as much of this body of this shirt as I can. I love this shirt. I thought this shirt was excellent, except for it never fit the way I wanted it to. I'm going to keep it as long as I can. But if you wanted to say crop it and do your line here, take this off, put a ruffle, and do the rest of the steps, you could have a really cute little like shirt too. So I'm just going to pick an arbitrary line because I don't do stuff the way people do. I don't measure. Who measures? And I'm just kind of going to come across and make it as straight as I can. I'm coming across. I've marked with my chalk and I'm just cutting just a nice straight line. You could curve it. That could be cute. I don't know what that looks like. I've never done a curved one, but that could be really cute. And I'm going to move my safety pin up a little. Just trying to keep, I like to pin these closed anyway, just to keep the button placket. Step 2. Pick an arbitrary spot, because again, it kind of doesn't matter. The bigger, the higher up you go, the more, what am I going to try and say? The higher up you are on the shirt, the more of a side triangle you're going to need. We're going to make a side panel to this, and it may be looser, the bigger, like it'll be looser around your chest and your stomach area. So you'll see. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to open this side seam right here. All right, here's the super awesome planned out voiceover work that I do for you. I'm just ripping open this seam using my little gold embroidery scissors, which are probably the best way to rip open a seam in my opinion, especially on something delicate like a shirt. And you don't want to go up too far. I'm going to stop about 1 inch away from the armpit on one side and like 1.5 inches on the other, because sometimes I just like it to be uneven. That's a design element that I am committed to. So snip, snip, snip. And then stop before you get to the armpit. We're not trying to separate the whole thing. We're just trying to open up the side seam so that we can get that panel in there that I was talking about earlier. There we go. Does anyone else get anxiety, like, when you're watching someone handle scissors? I mean, I know nothing happens because I'm the one in it, but I'm a little bit scared for them right now. They're not moving their fingers out of the way very quickly. Should they really even be trusted with scissors? That's your first step. We've got the side seams ripped open. We've cut off the bottom. Now we're going to move on to step number 2. Now, step number 2 involves the absolute desecration of a vintage dress. I got this dress on a thrift trip. It never fit. It was always too small. I didn't try it on. I just liked it, thought it would fit, purchased it, never fit. So we're going to use the fabric for the ruffle. Now, let me grab the first shirt again. We are not making an all-around ruffle. We are going to need 2 rectangles, and we're making a front ruffle to attach to the front, and we're making a back ruffle to attach to the back. So I need enough fabric to make a ruffle for the front and the back. We are leaving the sides open until we insert side panels, is essentially how that's going. In case you're wondering what happened, I realized I didn't have enough for the ruffle, so I'm turning the dress into the side panel and I'm using something else as the ruffle. So I found this scrap of really pretty floral fabric, and I'm just kind of wondering if I can use this instead of like an upcycled shirt or something, because honestly, it's really pretty. It's very delicate. It's very floaty. And I think it would look really cool with the other fabric that I've picked for this project. So hopefully this works. What I've done, because this is an irregular shape of fabric that I inherited from someone, what I did find out is I found out where it stretches. So it stretches away from me, and then oh, there's a little stretch there, but most of the stretch is this way. Oh, is it? All right, look, it'll be fine. Either way, I've found, oh my gosh, am I gonna have to cut that part out because it literally means nothing? So because I need double the fabric, so I just need I would like a dress length, so I would like it to be longer. Should I do it selvage to selvage? There we go. Okay, got it. Sorry, I had it folded the wrong way. So I'm kind of wondering if I can make this the ruffle. Typically I would find, if I were in a thrift store, there we go. Okay. If I were in a thrift store and I were looking for something to make a ruffle for a dress like this, I'm gonna weight it down just a little bit so it doesn't go sliding off the table. I would find a dress or like a skirt, like one of those tiered skirts that were really popular in the 90s. That's the kind of thing I would look for. I need something with a lot of fabric, or like a bed sheet. That's some way that you could use an upcycled thing for this project. You don't have to though. You can just use fabric. Like, I'm not judging you if you just use fabric. I did iron this though because I wanted to see how much I had, and I think it's going to be really good. The only thing that really matters, like if you're using fabric versus like upcycled clothing, you just really want to make sure that whatever you're using has a similar weight to the shirt that you're sewing it to. Like, that's the same with t-shirts. If you have a t-shirt and you're sewing another t-shirt to it, make sure it has a similar weight and stretch. And that is the best way to incorporate fabrics and garments together. So I think I'm going to need more than a 12-inch. So I think if I do like 12 plus 3, so that's like a 15. I think if I do a 15, so 12 and then 3, here is going to be my first ruffle right here. Now, I've shown you how to make ruffles before. Don't at me if you don't know how to do this. So I'm going to do 12, mark another 3 up, and I think that gives me, whew, I'm eking it out there. That gives me exactly what I need to make a ruffle. So I have these 2 rectangles, and I'm going to cut them out. That one's still a little wonky. If there's one rectangle that's slightly longer than the other rectangle, I like to put that one in the back so it goes over my butt. No one will notice. It's fine. I mean, or you could take the time and just like actually work out what's wrong with it, but who has time? Who has time? We're in an apocalypse. Who has time? It's like, that's going to be my show now. I'm just going to start calling it Apocalypse Sewing with Avery.
Hi, it's voiceover me again. So we've brought back the original shirt. I'm going to take a second here and just pin my appliques in place because I like to sew all at once. And that way I can sew them on while I do the ruffle. Now here we're explaining to you that I'm going to run a loose straight stitch. Set your tension on 0 or 1, sorry, 1 with the longest stitch. And we're just going to do a gathering stitch at the top, and then we're going to pin the right sides together. So essentially we're pinning it exactly as it currently looks in the picture, just after we go ahead and make the gathering stitch at the top so that we can form our ruffle. I'm not quite sure why this particular segment seems to go on forever. I have no idea what I'm explaining to you, but it was going on for a really long time, which is why I decided to speed it up. Yeah, so that's that. We're going to go do a gathering stitch and then pin.
So if you can see, I don't know if you can see, but I ran a really loose stitch. Now you should probably do 2. I only do 1 because I live on the edge. And if 1 breaks, at least you have a backup one when you do 2. But I did a really loose stitch on the top of the fabric. I just couldn't leave you all wondering like that. I'm here to teach. I need to teach. Do the whole lesson. We're not pinning our ruffle to both sides. Like we're doing 1 ruffle per side. We're not doing like a full on around. We're only pinning it to the front. Okay. And then the one on the back, essentially.
All right, so I've shown you the gathering stitch, and as I said before, we're going to start by pinning one of the sides, right sides together. We're starting in the front. Find your center. That's what that pin there is for. Oh my gosh, not button. That pin is there, holding it to the center. And now we're just gently tugging at that loose string. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause a gather. That's pretty much how all ruffles are made. I've shown you this in other videos. Oh, I do knot the ends. So right now I'm knotting the ends so that if you pull really hard, you don't accidentally pull one side of your string out, because that's annoying and it's happened to me a lot. So I'm taking a point in the middle, picking it a little bit with the pin so that I can get it started. And then we're just making our nice ruffle right there. And then we're going to start pinning it into place. When you speed it up 2 times the speed, it makes it look a lot easier than it probably actually is. I mean, it is easy. It's a very good beginner ruffle technique. Definitely, I recommend, if you haven't done a lot of ruffles before, to do the double stitch at the top. So do 2 lines of stitching. That way, if one breaks, you have a spare. That's why people do that. I personally don't usually, but as I said before, I like to live on the edge, apparently. I don't know why I said that. I literally don't ever leave my room. That's hardly the edge.
So I guess I did forget to change out my thread and applique. I will applique this at some point. You'll see it. It'll be great. But you can see I have my front ruffle all sewn on. I have my back ruffle sewn on. So this is looking pretty cute. Like, it's looking pretty cute. Come on. Come on now. That looks adorable, right? So I'm trying to think how best to explain this. We're going to make 2 triangles. And again, I don't really measure a lot of stuff when I sew. I kind of just eyeball it. Sometimes I use a ruler. I don't know where any of mine went though. The triangle on this side, for instance, goes up about 22.5 inches. I probably need something that's about 21, 22. Just didn't give myself a little extra room just in case. But like, I don't really ever measure, so it's hard to tell you that part. But we're going to... Look, it's so cute. I'm so excited. It's going to be so cute. So the fabric that I chose, I love to make these out of different types of fabric, like different patterns. So I have a very like acid wash shirt. I have a very floral ruffle. And I just feel that to tie it all together, I need this horrendous fabric. We're going to use this as the side panels to our dress. Originally I was going to make a DIY with it, but there's a lot of parts of it that are not in great shape. So we're just going to use it as some scraps and some different projects. And you know that the goal of this, like I said at the beginning, is to look fairly homemade. You want this to look like, you know, like you did something and you loved it, right? So what I'm doing is I've decided an arbitrary number of 22 inches, right? And I'm just making a triangle. Like literally, I'm just making a random size of a triangle. Okay, random triangles. Not even doing that great of a job. Random triangle is done. Cut it out. If you feel like leaving a little extra, like in case of error, you can. So like a little bit of a seam allowance. Sometimes one of the things that I find that can give these types of dresses a really cool shape is to cut them on like a curve. So like instead of doing a straight line, I'll just start to kind of bell this out a little like that and then come back in. Like honestly, like that's what we're aiming for. We need 2 triangles. So I cut it out of both sides of the fabric. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to attach the triangle and we're inserting it. So the cool thing about what's going to happen, I guess I should show you step by step so that you're not confused. Usually I'd just be like, figure it out from yourselves from here on in, but I'll try. We'll see what happens. You're going to take this, right? We're going to insert it. Then we're going to head to the sewing machine. We're going to sew it in. And then we're just going to close the seam with the other side. It's so easy. And then hem it. And sometimes when you add too much of a bell, there is a little bit of a funky kind of way of putting the triangle back in. But you pretty much can always get the triangle in. This is one of my favorite ways to make wide leg jeans. I think Blueprint DIY recently did a tutorial where she did something similar and made wide leg jeans. Okay, so back to voiceover because this was just getting really long. So I've pinned the one side in, and now all I'm going to do is repeat on the other side, and then I'm going to sew that seam, and I'll be back to show you what that looks like. Okay. So you can see here, I'm bending back that triangular piece. You want the triangle piece to lay flat and away from that seam, because if it doesn't, it's going to pop out and look kind of funny. So that is the one important thing. When you're sewing that last seam and you're closing it off, you just want to make sure that the triangle is flat so that you can make sure that it lays properly. Now, I did decide that this was just a tiny bit short. So here I am sewing on, sewing an extra ruffle. So we're going to do an extra layer of fabric. I'm just running my loose gathering stitch. I've already hemmed it. It's just a giant tube. Technically speaking, the tutorial's over. I've pretty much showed you how to make this dress. This ruffle I'm adding at the very bottom for length is just optional because I thought it would be cute. And it's my channel, and I'll cry if I want to. So here I am just pinning that ruffle on. I like to find the 4 corners. So if you separate your skirt into 4 even sections, it makes it a lot easier to add a ruffle. So what I'm doing here is I'm pinning, I'm folding the tube in half, essentially, folding the skirt in half. And I'm pinning the sides, and then when I lay that flat, I can find the center front and the center back. And then I've just matched the tube ruffle pins to the pins that I've got on the dress. See, right there. I think it's called quartering. I think it literally is actually called quartering your fabric because you're finding 4 even quarters so that you can attach your ruffle, which is how I do all of my ruffles. I'm pretty sure I've already shown you that. If I haven't, whoops. Should have showed you that during the sideshow dress, honestly, because that's where you need that technique. And then there's the long and boring process of just pinning layers and layers of fabric together. I love ruffles, but I have to say, this is the worst part. So just tug the top stitch like we did before, cinching that fabric in. Cinching, that's the word. And now here's our final dress, except for I can't figure out how to film it. Nice, loose, super cute, really thrilled with how it turned out. And if you like this video, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, go outside, stand awkwardly near a Christmas tree, drink water, eat a snack, take care of yourself, show me if you made this by tagging me on Instagram, and I'll see you next time. Bye!